Okay? Okay, start gathering your supplies. We'll help you out with those. Don't worry, there'll be lots of substitutions for today. Lots of ways to do it. So, okay. Y'all tell me when it's 1 o'clock. Everyone get your stuff together. You should have some kind of paint, if you had acrylic paint or tempera. If not, we'll figure out how to make that work for you. Celery. If you have some celery. If not, you should have an empty toilet paper roll if you don't have celery. Or you can do both if you want to. Paper. And anytime I have paint, I always get brushes too, just to have those. So get all those. And a plate, just because we're going to have to print on there. Okay. Are we ready? Are we at 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock? All right. Welcome to class. I'm so happy to see you today. Today we're going to be doing some printmaking and looking at an artist that is really neat and interesting. So our artist today is Dee Shapiro, and you'll see some of these beautiful abstracts behind me. But really, I want to talk a little bit. She is a wonderful contemporary artist. She is still living, 84 years young. And what's really neat is why I wanted to bring her in today is because she is part of the pattern and decoration movement. This was a big movement by women artists in the 1970s that was so neat because what they did is they said, hey, you know what? We're not celebrating the things that women have been traditionally known for, like quilts and wallpapers on their interiors and parts of the home. And they wanted to make that as important art, which is a little bit like pop art. Pop art took things that were ordinary in the home, and when you focused on them, they became art. And I brought that in, number one, because I live in Paducah, Kentucky. That's where our studio is. And we are known for quilts here. So this is a little homage to my hometown. But it's also the fact that because we're inside our homes and we're spending all this time in our homes, I want to celebrate the home. So pattern and decoration movement is a wonderful women's movement to look at on celebrating those and making those into art. The other thing that I love, Miriam Shapiro is really known. You'll hear the name Shapiro. She's really known is one of the founders of this movement. And we're looking at Dee Shapiro, a different artist. The reason I wanted to take Dee's work in today is because she took things that were big, like the wallpaper or big quilts, and she would do them on a small scale. So we're going to be taking that down and doing that in a small scale. I also wanted to pick this particular piece because I believe these are moths, but they reminded me of butterflies. And since we did butterflies, and you know when they cross your path, we did those yesterday in art lesson, it's good luck. So I figured we all could use a little happiness for another day in a row. So I want you to kind of take a look at her artwork. And the nice thing about abstract art is the artist always has a viewpoint in mind. But sometimes you can look at it all these different ways. But see how there's all these, they feel like textiles, that's a big word, that talks about fabrics, like your sheets, your clothes, your dish towels, these things like that. And it all comes together in really cool patterns. And what reminded me about this one that I thought would be fun to do today is to use a printmaking form from something you have around your house. Now, if you don't have celery, I want you to grab an empty toilet paper roll. And I did find, depending on the thickness of your roll, you may need some tape or a rubber band. The first roll I did was much thinner, and I could just hold it in my hand. So while you're running to grab that, if you didn't see that on our list, this is your substitute. And Talia's going to be my helper today. You get to meet another one of my kids. But we're going to show you how to do that. Before we start, you're just going to need celery cut like this. But I wanted to show you this. This is not, you don't need this today. But this is the bottom of the celery. See how that works right there? This is actually one of the best printmaking tools if you are walking through the grocery store, if you wanted to pick up, because see how it looks like a flower? See that? So I'll make a print real quickly. Let me see if I put this on blue. I'm going to take my See if I can get enough. Don't worry about doing this. I'm just doing this to demo. See if I can get enough in there. Oops, I'm going to go ahead and paint mine just because I didn't get enough. You can start seeing it a little bit more. Give myself a little bit more paint. But if I wanted to make greeting cards, gift wrap, you have a really cool printing tool right in your house. And I'm going to print it on the paper and I'll show it up. So I'm going to try and pick it up without moving it so you can see that. So here it is right here. And then you end up with little flowers. So you can just print this all over. You can paint it different shapes. It's really a fun thing to do. And lots of people don't think of Celery as a printmaking tool. But there are all sorts of things about being an artist, a lot of which is observing. So that's kind of a neat one. Just on that note, why don't you hop over here? This is my oldest. Look, all my kids are taller than me except Tate. So we're going to let her come in. And what she's going to do is she's going to show you, she's going to be using the toilet paper roll for the lesson, and I'm going to be using the celery. Now you just need, I want to show you how different, depending on your stalks of celery, see all those curves on the end? See how different they are? Long and wide, like, you know, a J, and then this looks fully like a U. And see how tight that is? See how all these they see that in the camera? But no matter, depending on the piece of celery that you cut and where you cut it, so you can use multiple ones if you want. Sometimes even from one end to the other end they change. So be mindful of that. You can use both ends if you want to. If you don't have a piece of celery or multiple pieces, you can take an empty toilet paper roll. And what I want you to do is I want you to take that toilet paper roll, I want you to smash it in half like this. And we're going to crease those edges. We're going to make it nice and flat. So you still will have a little bit of movement right here. And then we're going to fold it over and crease it again. You want to try and keep those ends lined up as best you can. Right here, and you're going to try and crease that. Now this is where I found the first one that I did when I was trying to think of substitutes, knowing that people might not have celery. I did find, while my grocery store is out of a lot of vegetables, no one seems to be eating celery, and I love celery. So there was still plenty of celery. And then what you're going to want to do, so you folded it flat, then you fold it in half. You can either see how it starts to make that celery shape with different movement in there. We kind of get that. You can choose to hold it in your hand, or if you have tape, you can grab tape and you can kind of curve it down where you get that half moon celery shape like that. Or if you don't have tape, even a rubber band would do. You could take that, or you can hold it in your hand if your toilet paper tube is thin enough. So you're keeping that tape off the edge or the rubber band, and then you're getting where you get multiple folds kind of representing celery. So that's a great substitute if you don't have. It's also good to see how the toilet paper tube somehow can turn into a different shape for when you're painting. You're going to want to make sure you get a lot of paint on here because the edge is thin. So, okay. So Talia's whipped up a few extra right there while you're making your toilet paper tubes. And if you have your celery, go ahead and we're going to start making patterns. So we're going to lower it down. Keaton's going to lower it down, and we're going to work on the table. Now the neat thing is we are going to be abstract. That means it's all fun. And I'm going to take my pencil. You don't have to use a pencil. You can just use your paint. You can use brushes. You can get messy with your fingers if you want. But on Dee's work, she has a lot of circles. So we're going to place some circles on our piece. I'm going to draw one there. Oh, she kind of has a big one over here, so I'm going to draw a big one. Doesn't matter if they go off your paper. And they don't have to be exact. These aren't exact circles. I'm going to draw another big one over here. So, yep, anywhere you want to draw those circles. So we're going to start with these, and then we're going to play with our pattern. I will reference that again. I'm going to just paint each one of these a different color. You can use your fingers, you can use a brush. We're not using the celery yet, so I think I'll make this one blue right here. You can use any color you want. Today I'm using acrylic paint. You want a paint for this you want with a little bit extra body, which means it's thicker. See how thick that paint is? It's not really dripping off. So tempera paint works good. Well, acrylic paint works well. Anything like that. If you don't, you can use your markers right now to color, and you can simulate the patterns by using your markers and drawing them on there. If you don't have markers, you can use crayons. And if all you have is a pencil and paper, you can make these same patterns and this idea, and then whenever you have something to color it in, you'll be able to color it in. Let's see, how about, I'm going with the primaries. Talia, what are you going with?
I guess secondaries.
Oh, look at that. So this is just a good, here we'll cover some primary colors. Primary colors, what all our colors are made up of, red, yellow, and blue. And if you start mixing just these two, blue and yellow, make green, red and yellow, make orange, and then blue and red. Anybody know? I didn't mix it for Talia, but she can mix it if she wants. So let's see if they answer. We have Michaela's back with us today. All my family's here, so we're all together, and see if you know. Oh, she's mixing it. Talia's mixing purple and red. Oh, she was blue, red, blue. I got so excited.
Carolyn and James, they're purple.
Oh, good job, Carolyn and James. Oh, while I'm here, I hope you can hear me. I got a special note from a mama. Happy birthday to Luke today. I believe he turns 7. So, happy birthday to you. So while Talia's coloring hers, I'm going to bring back our artwork. Now, at any time, you can add any of these details in, but I want you to look at these repeating patterns. We have dots. We have the scallop shapes here. We have scallop shapes around here. Can they see that, Keaton, or is it? Just help me if it glares. We've got more dots. We've got checks. Sorry, babe. We've got lines, but all those patterns repeat. This is fun to play with because all the rest of the areas you'll be able to put some of those in. Where her lines go like that, it reminded me of the celery shape, just like these. So that's why this inspired me to use the celery in the printing today. So now what we're going to do is we're going to print with our celery. And we're going to do repeated patterns. Look at all my tools. Look at all my tools. Isn't that exciting? It's like I have a whole option. So you can pick any color you want. You do not have to pick the colors, but you want to pick a contrasting color. So I may choose some green. This is when you're going to want your paper plate. And Talia's going to print with her toilet paper roll. And I'm going to print over here. I'm going to put some green on my paper, on my paper plate. And what color are you going to pick, Talia?
Red, I think.
Okay.
Because I have green already.
Perfect. And then I'm going to start in on my circle, and I'm going to work inwards. So I'm going to take, it's hard to see because that's green on green celery, but when I do this, I'm going to print down, and I'm going to repeat that pattern around the circle like this. And Talia's going to use her toilet paper roll. You may find one of the tighter ones might work, but you've got a variety too. And see how I'm repeating that pattern. Part of the significance of this movement is the repeated patterns, kind of representing home, and I'm going to work my way all the way around that circle. We're going to go all the way around. And Michaela, let us know if they have any questions. Now, the fun part about this is all these lessons are oriented for all ages. You know, even though I'm printing with celery, this is something that if you're an adult, and I hear from lots of adults that are doing the lessons, this will make your mind just think it's you, your hands are touching something different, you're taking something familiar and you're creating with it. And it really just opens your mind to seeing things differently. I'm going to take that same color and now I'm going to reverse out exactly where I did it. We're going to watch how this creates this pattern. So I'm going to take this around. Look at this. You see how with the toilet paper roll, Talia's is printing. I might need to get a little more paint. I got enough on there. But sometimes people go, oh, I don't have any art supplies around my house. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you have so many supplies. You just don't know it. You don't know that celery is an art supply and that baby oil is an art supply and all these things, because it just ends up, this blue and green makes me think of the world like that. So you start getting these patterns, and it's so cool. And look at Talia's, how different when you have a wider shape. So if your celery's wider, it's going to start doing that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go one more row in. Let's look at Dee's work again. See how the patterns, her circles go in, kind of telling different shapes and different stories, how we go in. They're concentric, meaning a circle within a circle within a circle. So let's go in, and I'm going to keep with the same color right here, and I'm just going to go in and I'm going to make another circle inside. Just seeing what, I'm sticking with my same colors. This will start when we take it inside closer. It's going to start to be very floral. You're going to start those little scallops end up, see how that makes a little flower inside? But let's see, Talia's is bigger, so hers may overlap. This is just really fun to do. If you are a mom or a dad and you're watching this, you're going to want to pick up this. You're going to want to pick up the celery from your kids and say, hey, can I do one of those? Because it really is so much fun. So hers ends up doing that look. So now I'm going to move around with the same idea, and I'm going to come over to another circle. So let's say I might bring some yellow. I'll take some yellow over here. Now, if you have, just like rinsing your brush, you can just tap your celery off. You also can use the other side right here because it's a printmaking side too. And so I'm going to try a little different movement. She did a lot of sideways. I'm going to repeat my pattern going this way. We're going to go in this method. Just like go all the way around your circle. How's everyone doing, Michaela?
I think we're doing good.
Oh, guys, y'all are so awesome. This is one of those lessons that really you can go just free range at home. Just go start going crazy, like just printing your celery everywhere. And the more colors you do and the more times you repeat it, that's kind of the key here. See how when we repeat it, we're making that pattern. Oh, and see, I always get messy. That's why I have to wear a big apron. So you end up, see how different, that's the same pattern, but when you take it and you turn it different ways, how you end up getting that look. Now what happens if you take the same and you turn it going the opposite way on the inside? Let's see what happens with that. We're going to flip it and go. I literally could just sit, oh, look how cool that looks. Ooh, this is so fun. could literally just sit here and do this forever. Okay, so are you ready? Let's move on and let's do our third circle. So I'm going to wipe off my brush and tell you if you want to try a different toilet paper roll, if you want to try a celery in there, you're welcome to.
I think I've used almost all of my toilet.
You remove your toilet paper rolls. Well, you can use the other end too. So now let's see. Dee had a lot of orange. I'm going to pick some orange in there. Let me show you her reference piece again while you're putting your celery on. You don't have to use her colors, but notice as she has lots of blues and oranges. Do you notice there's a contrast of warm and cool colors? That really makes me think of home. When I think of like the grass in the yard or the cool, like having a cool glass of water when you come inside when it's hot. That, you know, those things that remind you of home. And then warm, how you feel warm when you're snug in your bed. And that, so I love using that contrast of warm and cool colors. And if you're thinking, what are warm and cool colors? The way to remember that is cool colors are anything that you associate with cool, like cool grass or blue water, ocean water. They're going to be cool. And then anything you associate with heat, like the sun or fire, oranges, reds, yellows, those are going to be warm colors. So there's a good contrast of warm and cool. So we've got warm colors are reds and orange, and our cool colors are blues and greens here. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to come the opposite way. I'm going to scoop in like this, and I'm going to come around again using that repeating shape. This is all about pattern and decoration. Pattern is just repeating your design over and over. So, is your picture starting to remind you of something? Sometimes, like, you know, they remind me of shields or remind you of things maybe around your house. This reminds me of the earth just because it's blue and green, and it makes me think of a globe. So mine's going off the page there.
That one reminds me of a softball.
Of a softball, that might be. Or a flower reminds you, of those things. So then I'm going to come off. Now just to create a different pattern, I'm going to come off on a sideways on the end of each one of those. And see how, depending on where we turn the celery, or how we do it, how we come up with different patterns. I don't know what that red and orange is reminding me of the sun. So we may be inspired by that. I'm getting kind of close in here on my pattern. As we go, keep going around there. So I think I'm going to take this one outside of the circle like I did the first one. And I'm going to get some more paint there. So we're going to go just the opposite direction, outside. Just repeating that around, taking that circle outside. And this is when really, if you are being inspired and you want to go a different way and just start making additional patterns, it's really a fun way to explore and see what happens. But repeating those shapes creates designs. And understanding that concept, that kind of helps you think about how to create that in other types of artwork. And now we're going to overlap. So, got this. Okay. I'm going to keep going around. How's everyone doing, Michaela?
We're doing good.
So see how you start getting all these movements. We can even come into the center. We can come in and make another flower right here. I'm just going to do 4 this time, I think, and see what, it almost makes a clover or a quatrefoil look like that. So now, when you look again, we're going to look at Dee's piece with all the movement and the pattern. You can end up taking your brush and filling in, doing things just in between, just right here, running your brush in between, making those shapes, outlining. You can create that option. You can use your fingers if your parents don't mind. You know, filling in those spaces. See how it almost reminds me of rivers. We live on a river where we are. Does anyone else live near the water? We live right on the Tennessee and the Ohio River. They meet right at the end of Broadway Street in Paducah. You can literally drive right into the river. So we're just going to make, so that reminds me of home. If you live near water, that might remind you, or you might like to walk paths, and that would remind you of home. So the idea with this is you can continue and you can create all sorts of additional shapes. You can take another color and you can come outside of your circles and start repeating an area. I'm going to use black here so you can see it well. Talia's painting hers in. And you can start repeating an area and just doing, see the shapes just all going in the same direction, layering those in like that. And we'll fill that up. Using my celery. I'm going to let y'all keep going so I can fill this in with pattern here. Now we always put something underneath our artwork here, you know, especially if you're going off. Some things you might not know that you might have right on your table. How is your eraser over here, Talia? So these are a little deep, but an eraser is a great polka dot tool. I'm looking right over here. Oh, good thing to have some handy. Like, see right here or right here. Now, the only thing is you won't be able to use it again, which I might not be sad about. But if you want to, she had a lot of polka dots. If you want to use your finger, you can, but you can also use the tip of the eraser on your pencil, and we can come in and we can start making polka dots that come out. And we're just going to use our eraser as that. You want to, oh, good catch. You can end up using any color you want. I just happened to do this because they could see it. But this is a great tool if you were ever, you know, painting something and you said, oh, I just need some polka dots on there. The end of a brush, if you have a flat end of a brush, it will also work, like, you know, right here. Makes you start thinking of all those things, surfaces that might work. So you end up getting those dots there. I'm going to put some right here. See how they radiate outward? It reminds me of stitches, you know, as though if you were sewing a blanket or a quilt. I'm going to take those out and radiate those out. Now, depending on what yours look like, you can make it go any way you want to. This is great with a fingertip. Little fingertips are perfect at this. So the neat thing is you can just keep going and putting patterns. Another thing you could do is you could walk around your house. Do you mind if I lay this on top right here in between ours? And let's let everyone see them for a minute, and then we'll let Keaton go ahead and come on up. Keep going with your celery. Keaton, why don't you bring the camera up, and we'll talk about our pieces here. Okay, so Talia, you want to hold yours up? When you look at these, she has filled in with all sorts of designs, but it's pattern again. It's pattern. It's the same repeated shape. So you could decide to fill in every one of these areas. You could use some of your bigger pieces to come in, and what you're doing is you're repeating the same thing over and over. So it's that pattern part. That's what ends up making this really reflective of this time, which I feel really speaks to home. And since that's where we are, hanging out, having this time together, I thought that this would be a really neat one to do. It's fun, it's abstract, you can continue to play with this, and again, you can always add in, she has moths or butterflies, you can add in those butterflies. You can draw them in, you could cut out pictures from a magazine and glue them on your picture. She has a few all over, which I really think is a really fun lesson. And it's bright and cheery and makes you smile, and you got to paint with celery, which I think is super fun. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope you had a lot of fun with this. One thing a couple people have done is they've sent me requests. So if you have some requests on something you wanted to learn, somebody requested dogs for next week, so I think I'm adding that in on the lesson. If there's a type of art supply that you might have at your house, that if it's something that I can figure out that a majority of the people can use, and ways that we can use items we have in the house, that's what a lot of these lessons are focused towards, I would be happy to look into doing that. I kind of feel like we're all becoming family as we spend time coming into each other's homes. But continue playing with these. I would love to see your pictures. If you want them posted to the art show, you can mail them to email at makepaducah@yahoo.com. Makepaducah, all one word, @yahoo.com. And we'll put that in the comments. And just give me your permission to use it. You can send pictures of you holding them. I would love to see them. This is really a neat lesson. And, I mean, who doesn't love painting with celery? So, on that note, have a lot of fun. We'll see you at art lessons tomorrow. Art is man's nature. Nature is God's art. Bye, guys.